Hey y'all, welcome to Real Relatives, the podcast where three siblings dive into the world of TV and film. From binge-worthy series to blockbuster movies, we're your go-to podcast for lively discussions, fun debates, and plenty of sibling banter. So get comfortable, grab your remote, and let's get into it.
All right, Real Relatives. This is our first episode. Just to give you all a little bit of background, so we are, in fact, real relatives, and, we watch a lot of TV, watch a lot of movies, and like everybody else in their homes, we talk about it, and we just figured, we like the sound of our voices. Maybe y'all would like the sound of our voices. Let's do a podcast. And so here we are. We got mics. We're doing a podcast, and, we hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what we have to share, please subscribe and share with others. If you don't, please subscribe and share anyway. And let's get into the show.
I'm Tosin, lover of boba, space heater enthusiast, and Dunder Mifflin Employee of the Year.
And I am Penny Carmichael, Queen of the Zillennials, Empress of Sass, and Head House Hunter.
And I am Gene Rogers, tired but happy, father of two and husband of one, corrector of grammar, and resident nerd.
And we are the Real Relatives. For today's episode, we are taking you on a trip to the Japans, okay? We are going across the ocean overseas, and we're going to talk about Shogun. It has taken the world by storm. It's taken our household by storm. So get ready to hear our thoughts around Shogun. And then towards the end of the episode, we're also going to have a bonus discussion where we break down our top 5 favorite shows of all time. But before we get into talking about Shogun, Penny is actually going to give us a quote of the day, and Gene and I are going to try and guess where this quote comes from.
All right, guys. So the quote of the day is, they're driving right by. They don't even know what they're missing.
What?
Again, they're driving right by. They don't even know what they're missing. All right. 15 seconds.
Oh, Lord. Okay. I have no idea what this could be. Driving right by and they don't even know what they're missing. All right. I guess something. I don't know if it's right, though.
Yeah, I got a guess.
All right. 15 seconds. Okay.
Feels like that was 10, but go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
Producer E.
All right. Since Gene had a lot to say, you can guess first.
All right. My guess is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
What? Okay.
Okay.
And my guess is Cars. The Disney and Pixar hit. Yes!
Seriously?
From the greatest sports movie there ever was. That's right. Cars, the baby. Put some respect on Cars.
I had to troll y'all a little bit for the first one. There you go.
Okay. Oh my gosh. All right.
That was said by Lightning McQueen from Cars.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. Someone explain the troll.
Yesterday we were discussing, we were like, what's the greatest sports movie of all time? And Tosin yelled out without hesitation, Cars! And me and Gene were like, all right, that's wrong, but I guess it's your opinion.
The thing is, Cars isn't even like one of my favorite Disney, Pixar movies, sports movies.
Have you even seen Cars?
Maybe once, but I don't know why Cars popped into my head. It was a hit with the kids. NASCAR, vroom vroom. So anyway, I won.
I just wanted to troll a little bit. Yeah. So yeah,
I won. All right.
Anyway. Okay. So to kick us off, I'm going to get into a brief summary of Shogun because it was 10 episodes and we might have forgotten a little bit about what happened. So spoiler alert up front. Obviously, I'm about to talk about the show. So if you haven't seen it, just know you've been warned. Okay. So Shogun is set in the 17th century, and it follows the story of a Protestant English sailor, John Blackthorne, after he and his crew find themselves marooned on the elusive island of Japan. Blackthorne is separated from his crew and deemed as a barbaric foreigner, and narrowly escapes death, finding himself forced into becoming an advisor and vassal to the Lord Toranaga, a powerful lord who sits on the Council of Regents that currently rules over Japan. Toranaga disagrees with the other regents about how Japan should be governed after the death of the country's previous ruler, or Taiko, and a battle of power ensues. Blackthorne tries to manipulate the Japanese lords and leaders to do his bidding, but instead he finds himself trapped and entangled into the ongoing political game that exists between rival Japanese warlords the Regency Council, the Catholic Church, and the empires of Spain and Portugal that have already been in Japan for decades. Along the way, the characters must navigate cultural differences, romantic relationships, betrayal, greed, and more in the battle for power. Okay, so to start us off, does anybody have initial just thoughts from the show overall?
My initial thought was that was a great recap. Very professional sounding. I just want to give you
almost like you copy and pasted it.
No, I just want to give you
Okay, but the thing is, guys, I actually did not copy and paste. That came from my own brain, guys.
Your brain?
I had to look on. I had to look on the internet.
ChatGPT for sure.
No, I was gonna say it's giving ChatGPT, but
I am ChatGPT.
Oh,
Okay.
whatever. Secrets out. No, good job, Penny.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I don't know. Thoughts? I thought the show. Wait, so I will say high level thoughts. When we first started the show, I was like, oh yeah, this is like really, really good. And what I mean by that is like a lot of times shows like Shogun can feel very slow, but even though they weren't like speeding through things, it didn't feel slow. It felt like very deliberate. They were really like building up every storyline. A lot of the even small characters were getting like great opportunities to shine. I was really worried it was going to be like a white savior situation.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It was definitely not that. Like Blackthorn, I mean, like honestly, I was feeling bad for the guy by the end of the end of the series because like things were not going his way. So it definitely was not a situation where he came in and just like showed these savages how to roll. And yeah, it just felt like very sophisticated. I would say though that at the end of the show, I was a little bit. I didn't love the ending for me, because, and it might be because like I'm more used to like a Western version of storytelling where like the battle matters, but it was like it was like okay, this whole season y'all are setting up like all right, chess moves, boom boom. Rook to L3. I don't even know if that's a real chess move, but like y'all are doing this stuff, and then at the end of the thing, it's like, okay, y'all captured the king off screen or whatever. Like it doesn't. You don't even really get to see the payoff. So I did enjoy watching the show. So many great performances, but overall, I was like, I wish it had cut. I wish they landed the plane a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I was kind of like waiting for, it felt like there was a lot of build up and I was kind of waiting for like this like big battle to ensue or just like big like gotcha like type of moment, but that didn't really happen. And maybe that is just maybe more of like my I have more of a Western idea of like, you know, how like a story should take that. Yeah. Or like a TV show. But I wonder if maybe that was the point. The storytelling was kind of reflective of a little bit of like kind of, you know, what was going on in the show in terms of like the battle, like battling for power and how that was achieved. But we can get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. No, these are all really good points. I never considered the fact that, because I also felt the same about the ending. That I was like, wait, there's no big fight. I was waiting for like, you know, Operation Crimson Sky for it to be like, you know, bloody, a mess. And, you know, they're just like taking heads and stuff. But then it was just like, oh no, it's going to be a peaceful ending. And I was like, it was kind of, you know, not what I was expecting. But I think that does speak to maybe how we consume entertainment here in the West. Yeah. And they weren't really doing that in this story. And I think that's one of the really cool things about Shogun, that in a weird way, first time ever, I think, but I also kind of felt very similar to a white man in the sense of how Blackthorn, like we really saw him adjust to the Japanese culture and the things that he would get so worked up about, like especially like death, the way they handled death at the beginning of the show. Blackthorn and I were reacting the same way. Like, bro, this is needless. This is crazy. This is intense. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all just trying to die left and right. Yeah. But then towards the end of the show, you see that shift with Blackthorn and how he accepts the way that they choose to view death, how they choose to handle death. Right. To the point where I was kind of like shrugging my shoulders. I was like, oh, you know, sis, you did good. Do what you need to do, like enjoy your death. I don't know if that's the right way. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I also felt like the way that John had to tweak and adjust to the culture, me as a viewer, I also felt myself like doing the same thing as well. So I like that, whoever created the show, like they really stuck to their guns and like, this is about giving the Western world, just like Blackthorn, a peek into Japanese culture. And it's not adjusting it for my like Western views. I respected it.
Yeah, it was, he was definitely like the surrogate for the audience type of character. So what's interesting is, Shogun was like based off a book. There was also like a previous miniseries that was done, I think, in the 80s, and I don't know when the book was written.
Resident nerd, he knows everything.
I try. But
was it the 80s?
I think the miniseries was done in the 80s, and the book is even older than that.
Oh, wait, there's a miniseries?
Yeah, there's a pre-existing miniseries.
Well, look at that.
But like when they did that miniseries, and imagine there were no subtitles for the Japanese because they wanted the audience to feel like Blackthorn, who was a, I guess, English person who speaks Portuguese. He hits the Japanese shore in the Japans and does not understand anything. So the audience had to watch the whole show without if you don't know Japanese, then you're only picking up half of whatever's going on, or maybe not even half of what's going on.
Oh,
I kind of fool with that concept.
I do, but I don't because I need to know what happened.
Yeah, see, and I was like, okay, oh, interesting. But then also, is it also kind of saying that like the perspective that matters that the audience really needs to understand is like only like the Western perspective or the white man's perspective? So I'm a little, I don't know. It felt like it only gives you half of the story because that is the point of view character. But in this show, like in the current version of it, like everyone's viewpoint mattered. So there is no assumption that the audience is Western watching this story about the East. This is a story that's being told from multiple perspectives, and I kind of like that.
Do you think Blackthorn was a point of view character in this like 2024 miniseries? That might probably is the case for the book and like I guess the original miniseries, but
I don't think so. I think even towards the end, for me, I was noticing, I was like, oh, he would pop up and I'd be like, Blackthorn, you're still there.
Right.
You're still in the mix and part of this story. Like, I feel like he faded a little bit more into the background than I thought he was going to when the show initially started. Like, I was definitely getting white savior vibes. And that is not the direction that they took us in. And for that, I will always forever respect this show.
Who was the main character?
Because I was wondering, I said, I don't know. Do we have a main character in this? In this series.
I do think that Mariko was Mariko. Oh gosh,
Lady Maria. Crazy, bro.
I do think that she was the main character a little bit more than the others, just because she overlapped the most. She overlapped with the church. She overlapped with Blackthorn. She overlapped with Toranaga.
Blackthorn.
Okay. She overlapped with Toranaga, even Lady Ochiba. Like she overlapped with everyone. So I do think because of that, she was like the main character, but only by like a few inches.
She was the central like, thread, though. I didn't notice that.
She had her
I didn't pick up on that.
Hand and everything.
Okay,
so.
That's funny. Okay. I feel like it kind of changed throughout. Like I feel like Blackthorn started off as the main character, and then we kind of shifted to Toranaga, and then maybe it ends with Mariko being like the main character.
Yeah,
even though she wasn't even in the last episode. Isn't that crazy?
Right? The power.
Yeah, the
love
power.
it, sis. Love it, queen.
And it's kind of crazy because it's like, all right, like obviously, okay. So I said earlier, like a chess match, right?
Yes.
So who were the two players? Who was playing chess?
It was a chess team. I don't know. They're swapping
I think there's multiple games of chess going on at the same time.
Facts. I think there's some checkers going on and there's some chess going on.
Okay.
I think Toranaga was playing chess Toranaga was playing multiple games of chess.
Yeah. He's playing against himself. He's playing against others.
Bro,
I don't think he knew what he was doing.
Let me tell you an example of him playing against himself, because I don't think like towards the middle of the thing, whatever, when he was like he was about to surrender to Ishida. And all of his vassals were like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "I just lost my son. I'm sick. And I was like, "Is this guy really sick?" I mean, because the whole series, the guy is like
the trickster,
doing exactly imaginations, everything. You know what I'm saying? He has everyone on puppet strings, but he was in his room by himself, and he was moving slowly. He was still coughing, and I was like, "Wait a minute." Is he about to die from this? Because I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, what direction are they going to take this?" Because I was like, "Oh, he's actually sick." we get to the end of the thing, and I was like, he had a scene with Mariko where I think he dropped the pretense and like let her know that he wasn't sick. And I was like, so this guy, the way he's playing chess with himself is like, even when he's alone, he's like, I'm not going to drop the act. I don't know who's watching and from where. Every time I'm going to be on point. Mm-hmm. He's out there with Yabushige at the end, right? Mm-hmm. He finally, and first of all, that guy, Yabushige was just spinning.
Oh my God.
He really thought he was doing something. The guy was a hamster on a wheel. And he's like, all right, just tell me. Do you want to be Shogun? You want it, right? You want it, right? Toranaga hesitates for a second and then says, why would I tell the future to a man who's about to die? Mm-hmm. And then cuts his head off and boom, he goes into the water. This guy is not going to drop the eightfold fence or the three hearts or whatever it is. He's not dropping his walls.
Yeah. I thought so when that happened, that scene with, I just called him the uncle, the hamster on the wheel, the one who was always
Yabushige?
Yeah, I just called him Uncle.
Yeah.
So when Uncle
Y.
Uncle Y. So when Uncle Y was asking, he's like, just let me know. I'm about to, commit seppuku. Mm-hmm. I'm a goner. Just let me know. Are you trying to be the Shogun? And I really thought that Toranaga was going to tell him, it's right when he was, about to do it. But no, he's committed to being to whatever his plan is. Yeah. So, I guess respect, but I would have liked to have known as well.
Did he want to be?
Was to be.
I was gonna ask you guys, what are our thoughts on that?
I think he did, because what he did tell because Yabushige was like, the whole time he was like, I wish I knew one of your plans before you did it at least one time, and so he's finally like, okay, so what's gonna happen with the war? And he's like, there's not gonna be a war. What's gonna happen is the letter I got was from Lady Ochiba. She's gonna convince the heir to withdraw his troops. She doesn't come marching in.
The heir likes to stack rocks and play in the garden. He's a baby.
Okay, yes, fair, facts. But she's gonna withdraw the troops. She just gonna come marching in, and he's not gonna have a banner to fly under. So all of a sudden, everything he was doing has no merit. So he's gonna have to give up peacefully. So that's the future. That's what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. But then later he says, well, why would I tell the future to a man who's about to die? Well, you had no problem telling a future to him when it didn't
when it wasn't his
when it didn't
specific
reveal your own wants and desires. And so that's why I was like, nah, this guy wants it. This guy, he wants it, but he's not going to say it, because to say is treason, right? To say is that means you want to be above because the Taiko's heir can only become Taiko.
Yeah,
the Shogun is above Taiko. So if you want to become Shogun, you want to be over. You can't say it out loud.
Dang! Wow, Look, in this year of 2024, we all need to stand on business like Toranaga, okay? Follow things through, because that's crazy. Mm.
I mean, whether or not he wanted to be Shogun, he was, right? Because you see that he's the one who pulled all the puppet strings in the end. So,
yeah,
he's the mastermind and kind of, again, I don't know, moving on the chessboard, whatever Gene's analogy was. But yeah, I think he ended up being the one who was Shogun.
Yeah. So. I thought, so I will say Lady Ochiba in a little little way, I feel like she let me down. Mm. I was expecting some more from her. The way she came in hot, talking about, I don't care what the council says. This is what we're going to do. She was pulling her own strings as well.
Yeah.
But, and I love a vengeful woman in a TV series.
Why is that? I wonder.
Because I'm petty and I like to get even. So I love to see when female characters do that in TV shows and movies. And so she lost her luster and her fire. And I did not realize how much her friendship to Mariko meant to her until the very end, after she, I guess, Mariko died in the explosion. Yeah. She actually seemed sad to me. She didn't show much emotion, but I was just like, oh, no. When she did the poem with her son, I was just like, oh, wow, this friendship really meant a lot to her. And she does not blame her for the death of her father. Yeah. And so I think, when that happened, I was like, I understand why she backed off. Yeah. Decided to, you know what, it is what it is. I don't really care anymore. But yeah, I just wish I would have seen her kind of go at Toranaga a little bit harder, because I feel like at first she was a worthy adversary.
She was the only worthy
adversary. I was like, okay, come on.
Ishido was just, I mean, he thought he was doing something a little here and there. He said, all right, cool. I'm going to bring you up on treason.
Mm-hmm.
Then he dips out. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to vote to, we're going to vote to impeach you or whatever. He leaves the council.
Yeah.
All right. Now you got to appoint someone else. And the guy's scrambling for moves here and there. And then, Ochiba shows up and she's like, all right, y'all can listen to me. I was like, okay. Now the board is set for the two masters to go back and forth.
Let's do it.
But to your point, you're like, oh, I didn't know how much she actually cared about the relationship with Mariko. And I didn't either. I was like, are they on good terms? I couldn't tell. I was like, are they used to be, but now they're beefing or whatever. But you know who did understand how important the relationship was? Toranaga, who sent Mariko. I feel like that's the reason he sent her into Osaka to either pretend to threaten to sacrifice herself, or potentially actually sacrifice herself, finally, get the death that she was hoping for and shake this woman to her core.
So, speaking of Lady Ochiba and Mariko's friendship, clearly she got, very emotional with the passing of her friend. For y'all personally, watching Shogun, was there a moment that made you feel very emotional, or was it just in a roller coaster the entire time? What really gripped you? I'm curious if we have the same answers or something different.
Penny, I'll let you go first.
I feel like, this happened really early on, and it kind of didn't necessarily wasn't a key point for the storyline, but when what's his name, homeboy that spoke out of turn and had to commit seppuku, and then was and my line will never continue.
Fuji's husband. I don't know his name.
I don't remember his name. But that made me really sad.
Him speaking out of line, or her with the baby?
When he committed seppuku and didn't
kill his child. What are you talking about?
Be a little more specific. I wasn't sure. I was like,
I think that made me kind of emotional. I feel like not a lot of it made me emotional, because I felt really detached from it in a way that I was like, this is 17th century, just wildness all around, everybody involved. I was just I don't know. I feel like things people did hundreds of years ago was just weird, and I don't understand the logic behind it. But that made me sad. Just the idea, and it also kind of blew my mind about this concept of a loyalty to another human being.
Oh my god.
And also just the fact that you kind of didn't have a choice in it necessarily. You're kind of born into
right.
This whatever, the words I can't think of.
Caste or system or something.
Yeah, your fief, whatever. You have the lords have a fief, and then your vassals. I don't know. And Fuji didn't really have a choice in what happened to her husband and her son. And I think that just made me sad and emotional. And
yeah, that's fair. I thought the whole thing, I was more so just oh dang, the baby.
Yeah.
That's what really got to me. I was just this baby who is so innocent, didn't do anything. That made me really sad. But I think the scene that made me just very, very oh my God, what's happening, is when I'm so bad with character names on
all
TV shows.
Names? Or just foreign character names?
What are you doing?
No, what are you trying to do? Please stop. Anyway, when Toranaga's best friend, the old man, Fuji's dad.
I think Fuji's grandfather. By marriage, maybe? Hiramatsu?
Yes, committed seppuku. And that,
tell us about it.
I was no, Toranaga, he's got the blade at his chest, he's about to do this.
Say
man.
something.
He's you can stop it now. You can stop with your fake cough and your limp. Please don't let this man do this. And as he is about to commit seppuku, Toranaga's eyes are also watery and filling with tears. And I was just what's happening? But also I couldn't totally watch because I don't like blood or violence. So I was watching through slitted fingers, trying to read the subtitles, but not see someone actually stab themselves.
Right.
And then he called his son to be his second. And I was just
son.
Stop. This is too much.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, only to find out that this was just a ruse. And I was just what type of... level of loyalty is this? You're willing to for a ruse.
Do you have any friends that loyal?
No. And I'm not that loyal. So don't ever expect something like that from me. I love y'all, but never.
And here's the thing. I was watching, first of all, that part shook me a lot.
Yeah.
That was my answer. I have a backup answer that I have to go to because you took the best answer.
I think that's like everyone's though.
Except for Penny didn't care. So
Stone Cold Penny.
But do y'all think that Harimoto did he know that like did he know Toranaga was pretending, or was he just so like he was like, either I'm gonna give my life for these vassals who don't believe you should be surrendering, or I'm going to be helping you in your route, like whatever it is, I know that my death is gonna mean something.
For my sanity, I have to believe that he knew. There's no, I can't be okay with like finishing this show, absorbing everything and thinking that like he went to his death not sure that Toranaga was actually like not going to give up.
Yeah.
So for my sanity, he knew what was happening.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I think then my backup answer would be it was when Mariko and had to take Blackthorn to the brothel, and they were there with Kiku. And
interesting.
The reason that hit for me, this show was like, it was a very sexy scene, right? But like the show didn't really have a lot of like sexually explicit content, right? It wasn't overtly sexual. There was a lot, and again, maybe it was like, again, with the kind of culturally, like with the character of the show, you hide a lot behind these like the eightfold fence. You don't show your true heart to everybody, and so there's a lot that's like hidden. But she's there, and they're with the courtesan, Kiku, I think was her name. And at one point, Kiku goes like behind Mariko, so that it's Blackthorn, Mariko, and Kiku that are like in a line. So really, Blackthorn is like looking at Mariko. Mariko's translating for Kiku, saying all these like sexy things that Kiku is saying, like these are the things that like the services that you'll get in this house of pleasure. You're gonna like lose yourself and da 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 da. And at a certain point, so she hides herself. That was point one. And I was like, oh, she's allowing Mariko to kind of like, for him to like focus his attention on her, because obviously everyone around them can tell
what's going on.
You know what I'm saying? The tension is
even
high.
Mariko's husband.
The tension is high. Facts. Buntaro was not happy.
Boom, boom.
And then second, she switched from third person to first person. So she stopped saying like, she will do this for you, she will show you this, to I will do this, I will show you that, I will give you this experience. And I was just like, oh, so them being here is kind of giving her the experience to like say something she would never be able to say like outside in the real world under the veil of cover. And then she's like, all right, well, now it's time to actually go do the deed. So Kiku goes and takes Blackthorn off. And then you just see like their hands like graze each other. And I was just like, yo, the tension is high. The tension is high. It's going crazy. So I was just like, this is just like it was a incredible scene. And you could really see like the crackling energy between two characters. And they didn't need to show them like, you know what I'm saying, going crazy in the bed to do it.
Grandpa Gene.
Well.
Interesting point.
One thing y'all are going to learn about Gene is that like he's very observant, because the whole switching from third person to first person didn't cross my mind. I was just like, dang, he's about to go sleep with the courtesan, and this is weird. That's all I was thinking about.
Which also made it like very sad for Mariko and for Blackthorn, because he couldn't say no in a way. So there was that. And then I guess we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but like what storyline, did the storyline like meet your expectations? Were there parts that felt lacking? Like I said, for me, I just wish that they landed the plane a little bit. Like I wanted to see a battle.
I wanted a big fight.
Yeah. And if not a battle, like I wanted to at least see, you know what I'm saying? All right, end of the chess match. You capture the king. You do what, you know what I'm saying? You become the guy. And I want to see that happen instead of you telling a story about what's going to happen. That was kind of crazy. Yeah. Penny, what's up?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel like a lot of times when I start watching something, like maybe my expectations, I try not to like come in with a lot of expectations. But after watching the first episode, I was like, oh man, like this is about to be like this crazy like political drama, the lies, the deception, like the romance, like, you know, like what are we gonna get? But then it kind of just felt like too realistic in a way, like that. I was just kind of like, oh, they're really just going through like all these like games that they're playing, and it's probably is how stuff like this actually happen. But I was like, it's not necessarily like making me respond in a way that like, or it doesn't like necessarily capture my attention.
Yeah.
In a way that I thought it would, or that I would have liked it to, like whether that meant like a big battle or just something that kind of like evoked like a certain like feeling. I feel like it didn't really do that. But then kind of going back to what I was saying, I was like, I wonder if maybe that was reflective of what was going on like in the show, right? It's like we're expecting like this big battle to ensue. Like everybody's like, oh my gosh, like when is the war happening? But no, they're playing like mind games with each other, and it's more of like there's like a nuanced like kind of like thing going on there, especially with like Toranaga and stuff. So I'm like, oh, was that intentional? Question mark. And now it made me think.
You know, it's funny because like when we finished the episode, I was like, I already know there's going to be a bunch of people online, like all the critics, all the whatever, saying like, oh no, that's part of the subtlety of the show.
Yeah,
it wasn't really about. No, I don't care.
I
don't care.
My face.
I didn't like it. Okay, but okay. All that being said, I mean, we didn't really talk about this before, but I had a bunch of kind of like outstanding, like little questions that we don't have to talk about now. Maybe like people from the audience can hit us on socials or whatever and tell us their thoughts. But like Toranaga, obviously, chess player, sacrificing all these pieces. Do these people know that what their part is to play, or like were they getting sacrificed like unwillingly? That's one question. Like, does anyone else know the whole plan, or is he just out here moving pieces without them knowing? His son tried to kill his brother and died in the silliest way I've ever seen on screen. Slipped on a rock.
Man.
What's like?
Knocked his noggin.
Oh man.
Did he know his son's plan, or was his son just out there while and trying to please his father?
I think he knew his son was a dummy.
What else? Okay, so Taiko couldn't give anybody else an heir. And then there's like, they do this little flashback scene. Chiba, they were giving her elixirs and drinks and serums and this and that for her to conceive an heir.
That's somebody else's kid.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like,
that's somebody else's kid.
Whose son?
Because he was sterile, it sounds like.
I'm saying.
That's somebody else's child.
I was thinking the same thing.
The seed wasn't really seeding. All that being said, great show. Heard a lot of conversation kind of floating around. And one thing we want to do with this podcast is at the very end of every discussion, kind of have a little wildcard question. So my wildcard question is a lot of people compare the show to Game of Thrones. Do you guys feel, now that we finish it, like it deserves to be compared to Game of Thrones? And how's it similar? How's it different? Real quick.
Okay, I'll go first. So I guess unfortunately heard the comparison to Game of Thrones. So when I was watching the show, I couldn't help but to make those comparisons. Right. So that was always just in the back of my mind. Do I think it deserves it? I think if we were getting more seasons, then we can put it in the running to be on like a Game of Thrones level of things, because like it had the complex storylines, it had great plot twists, surprises, things like that. I just feel like Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 6 was very epic. Yep. And I feel like Shogun would do things here and there that were laying the foundation to be epic. Right. But because it is a miniseries and they had to cram a lot into 10 episodes, it did not quite hit that epicness. So I'm going to say no, it's not like the level of Game of Thrones, but still a very, very solid show. And if it weren't a miniseries, then it could be more of a contender in my eyes.
I don't know. I feel like they had enough time because, but I kind of agree with what you said. Like Game of Thrones is epic. And I feel like to do what Game of Thrones did, it was balancing so many types of like genres within one show is insane, and characters. Yeah. And I think I can see how naturally it would get compared to Game of Thrones. Kind of what I was saying before, I feel like Shogun like draws out a bit, and I'm like, I feel like we could have added more like action or like eventfulness or like other plot points that kind of like, got your, emotion senses a little heightened. I don't know. And I feel like 10 episodes was enough time to do that. I just think the story wasn't like,
it just wasn't that.
That wasn't the point of their story.
Crazy. Penny
Yeah.
was bored. Penny was bored.
Penny's really hard to please. Y'all are gonna learn that. She's very hard to impress.
Whatever that means. So I just think I can understand why it would get compared to Game of Thrones. I think Game of Thrones is incomparable, to be honest. I think, like Tosin said, it lacked that like kind of like epicness to it, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't like a solid,
still great show.
Yeah.
Fair. I like the comparison for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of people with Game of Thrones came to it or didn't come to it initially because they were like, oh, I don't like fantasy. But then you learn it's like not really a fantasy show. Mm-hmm. It's a political show. It's, it's a show about like, it has more similar with like House of Cards to me than Lord of the Rings. Right. So it was like all these kind of political machinations and everyone, you know what I'm saying? You don't know who's on whose side. People are switching allies, switching enemies. That to me felt like very much Shogun because you weren't like quite sure. You had Yabushika going back and forth. You had, you know what I'm saying, Ishida trying to marry Ochiba and like, shore up his side of things. And you had kind of all of this kind of stuff. Couple like very specific things. Ochiba was like the kind of the heir's mom who was kind of controlling things from the background. It's giving Cersei Lannister.
Yeah. But she didn't have the follow through of Cersei.
That's fair. You had someone kills the former ruler and their family becomes like shamed for it. So Jaime Lannister killed like the former king,
right?
Yeah,
the Targaryen.
Right.
Okay.
And then meanwhile, Mariko's dad killed like the former Tycho for the good of the realm.
Yeah.
And that brought shame upon their family. A lot of moving pieces, this and that. I think the main difference is like in Game of Thrones, the idea was like who's going to win the throne, right? Who's going to win the game? And in Shogun, it was really like, yes, we're doing this thing, but it's really just to show you who these people are. We're just exploring characters. It's not really about who wins and loses. That almost felt like a secondary story. Yeah. And I think that's why they gave it to us off screen, which again, I don't care, sophisticated, blah, 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 blah. I wanted to see it on screen. But I felt like they were saying like, this is really like a character study of this time in Japan through a lot of different eyes. There is this interesting story happening, but that's not the main point. So.
Wow. Gene knows TV. He is TV.
Gene Willikers, guys. Okay, so yeah, all that being said, we talked about the show. Time to give it our rating. We're going to use a bit of a special rating system. And as the probably loverist lover of boba there ever was, I want Tosin to go ahead and kick us off.
That's me, lover of boba. All right, so I am going to say that Shogun to me came across as a milk tea. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it was very murky. All right, couldn't really see what was gonna go on. Lots of twists, turns, surprises, things like that. It got very murky at times, and I'm gonna give it light ice. I don't like my boba with too much ice because I don't want to dilute the drink. So I feel like it was very flavorful. Okay. And then I will give it regular boba. I like heavy boba with my drink. So the reason why I'm giving Shogun regular boba is because I do think we keep hammering at this point, but the ending, the landing of the plane could have been smoother. As AKA, I wanted to see a big fight or something. And I didn't quite get the action that I wanted in the show. So for that, I'll give it regular boba instead of heavy boba, but still all around a very delicious drink.
Facts. All right, Penny, giving the Real Relatives patented boba rating system. Give it to us.
That's crazy. Let me see. I don't know. I'll give it a maybe like a green tea. No, a black tea. Half sweet. Mm-hmm. Regular boba. And like no ice. Crazy. I know. Very weird combination. I feel like there's some sweetness there. It started off like, oh, like this is giving me something. Like when I first take a gulp. And then the more you drink, you're like, this isn't quite like hitting the way that I wanted it to. And then I feel like if you continue consuming a drink like that, it feels a little underwhelming at the end. It's like, oh, like I didn't quite enjoy the like experience as much as I thought I would starting off. And I also prefer milk teas, right? So I picked like a green tea because I was like, okay, it's like an okay like choice, but it's not like my preferred choice. So I think that kind of maybe describes like how I felt about the show after watching the whole thing.
Got it. Interesting fact, most milk teas are black teas.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But there's no milk in it.
Interesting. All right. I would go with a sweet green tea drink as my base. Like Penny said, to me, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable throughout. It was sweet, but there was a bitterness to the drink, right? And there's a lot of bitter moments. A lot of, there's a lot of seppuku at the end. Well, I'll tell you, or threatened.
Seppuku there.
And at the end of it, I was like, man, I wish this was just a bit better. And again, that's just for my taste. No ice. I mean, the drink was not cut with any water. It was very pure. It was very dense. It was very like this show was not watered down in the slightest. And I love that about it. And very chewy boba. You got to work your way through it. It's going to give you a lot to process, a lot to work through. So that is that's my drink. For the second part of the show, we want to let you guys get to know us a little bit better. And in order to do that, we're going to talk about our 5 favorite shows of all time and tell you a little bit why they are our favorite.
Woo-woo.
Let's start with Tosin.
Okay. So my top 5 shows, I'm going to work from least favorite to most favorite, of course. My number 5 show is Arcane, and that is the game that's based off of League of Legends. And then for show number 4, I have Game of Thrones, but seasons 1 through 6, because towards the end, we all know what happened. Okay. And then for number 3, Insecure. Love that show. So great. And then number 2, I have Avatar: The Last Airbender. And my number 1 show, give me a drum roll, is The Office. If you couldn't guess from my, my little host intro, Dunder Mifflin Employee of the Year. I love The Office. It's the greatest show of all time. And just why I chose the shows that I did, one thing to know about me is like I'm really big on animated shows. I love them. So there are definitely going to be a couple on here. For Arcane, that one is in the mix, but it's hanging on by its fingertips because I haven't rewatched the show. And that's a big thing for me with my favorite shows. I have to be able to rewatch it. With The Office, I've probably rewatched the series at least 10 times. Crazy. But yeah.
It's crazy.
Do something.
Why would you spend time like that?
It's like my pick-me-up show. It's so good. I love The Office, y'all. If y'all ever want to talk to me about The Office, feel free to like DM me, whatever, hit me up. We can talk about it. It's my favorite. But yeah, those are my top 5 favorite shows in a nutshell.
All right, Penny.
Yes. Okay, guys, this is hard. I hate this. I have one favorite show, but then finding 4 more was hard.
Yeah, I'm so curious to hear yours because you're just like never impressed.
Yeah. Facts.
Well, because I was gonna say I will give you my other 4 favorite shows with caveats.
Okay.
But she says she's not hard to impress. But go ahead.
Okay. I just feel like y'all are dramatic about it, but whatever. We can get into that another time. I guess I'll go 5-1. I don't like this. Okay. I think. Yeah, actually, I won't put 2 through 5 in an order, but I'll say I think the first, I don't know if a recency bias for some of these, but the first season of Bridgerton. Okay,
really?
And that's the caveat, right? The first season, thought it was really good.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
First season of Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso. Okay, that's a cute
spectacular.
Okay.
But then Never Have I Ever is a whole series.
Okay.
Love it. I love me a good YA dramedy, so that was right up my alley.
Yes.
Love it. I just said 3, right? Okay, yeah. And then first season of Slow Horses. And I feel like some of these are recency bias, but I'm just gonna roll with it because it's too hard. It's too hard to like find all the shows I watch, so many. But my number one pick is Game of Thrones.
The whole thing, or
The whole.
seasons 1 through
I'm gonna
6?
say
Are
the
you
whole
screaming
thing.
the whole thing?
I'm gonna say the whole thing. Yes, season 8 was unfortunately disastrous.
Yeah.
However, I'm not gonna let that like the show was phenomenal. The whole show was phenomenal.
Okay.
I'm not gonna let season 8 like change the fact. It doesn't change the fact, in my opinion, that was just a really great series. Some people don't fool with season 7. I thought season 7 was fine, right? I thought it was a good like what do they say? Penultimate like season? I don't know.
It would have been if season 8 had ended on a strong note. Then season 7 would have been okay.
In my opinion, I still think season 7 was solid.
Okay.
Season 8, we don't have to talk about it.
happened? Don't
And it
know
was
her.
disappointing. However, I just feel like it doesn't change the fact that like it was an amazing series.
Okay.
For me.
Respect. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I would ask you how you picked what you picked, but it sounds like you just looked at the most recent shows that came out and then picked 4 of them.
No,
okay.
that's not true.
You can't shade her list. That's her list.
I'm kidding. But you are also a cheater because we asked for like your favorite shows and you picked seasons.
Okay, but
Oh,
I
that's
told you
fair.
I feel like entire shows
Yes.
to be a favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have that except for Game of Thrones.
How is Stranger Things not on your list?
I don't know why you're pushing this agenda of Stranger Things being my favorite show. I don't understand it. I do enjoy Stranger Things. I think it's a great show.
Have you not liked any of the seasons of Stranger Things?
I feel like the last couple of seasons have been pretty blah.
Okay. All right. Well, look, you're not the only cheater in the room. I too am a cheater.
Am I the only one who did this right? Anyway,
Probably,
continue.
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm going to go 1 to 5, right? I'm going to start with my number 1 favorite show of all time is The Wire.
Wire.
Yes, The Wire. Yes, that's right. And I'm a stereotype or whatever, but it's fine. I'm a cliche. The Wire is an
Wait,
amazing
what?
show. Number 2, Breaking Bad by a very, 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 very thin hair. Number 3, I feel embarrassed to even say this in front of Tosin, The Office.
Yes. Number 3.
Since when?
No, it ever since I watched it all the way through.
How many times have you rewatched
All right.
it?
I've only watched it twice. That's why I said
then
I'm
you're not a real
embarrassed.
fan, but
Okay.
continue with your list.
I'm not a big rewatcher. Number 4, this is where the first bit of cheating comes in. I'm going to split Parenthood with This Is Us. They are
But those are
2 different shows, but they're
Yeah.
kind of the same show. And look, here's how.
What you mean they're tied? What is it?
Well,
Like,
no.
what does that
They're both occupying the 4th spot.
they're both at 4 for you. Okay,
That's
I'll
what it
allow that cheating.
Because look, the reason I watched it, I watched Parenthood. My lovely wife told me to watch Parenthood. I thought to myself, this is not a show for me. That's where I was in my at the time in my life. I said, this is not a show for me. Very emotional, weepy, blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, I'm crying every week. And I was like, this show is an incredible catharsis. The show ends, and I was like, I don't remember what year it ended, but I was like, they don't really make shows like this on TV anymore. I don't think I'm going to have this kind of like emotional show to sink into ever again. And then next thing you know, I'm flipping channels and da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na. And This Is Us.
What is that?
This is Us theme song. Yo, did I ever say I was a professional singer? No. Anyway, and This Is Us was just like a kind of continuation, but took it to the next level of what Parenthood did. And I found myself again another kind of cathartic show. And the reason that I have those tied at 4 is because I leave my 5th spot open because there's just like too many shows.
No.
Hold on. No.
Because it could easily
You said
be-
you can't shade Penny's list, so you can't shade mine.
No. So because you're leaving number 5 open,
Yeah.
you can easily make Parenthood number 4 and This Is Us number 5.
But I won't.
Those are
And
your
let me,
5
I
shows.
won't, and let me
Cool.
tell
Great.
you why.
Thank
Let me
you.
tell you why.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot of shows that I was like thinking about, and I was like, okay, Game of Thrones was gonna be it, but unfortunately, unlike Penny, those last 2 seasons, they fumbled the bag. Couldn't put it in my top 5.
Outrageous.
Then I think about some of the other shows, like Suits is a show I recently rewatched. I used to be obsessed with it, but like, is it my favorite? BoJack Horseman, incredible animated show. I'm also a lover of animation. I was like, an animated show should go in there.
What
But
about
then-
Arcane? You liked Arcane a lot?
I liked Arcane. I liked Young Justice.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I love Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And then I was like, I love anime. How do I not have a single anime show
True.
on my list? Probably Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is my favorite anime of all time. There's just like too many directions that I'm pulled in. So I'm leaving the 5th spot open.
It sounds like you need to rework your list. This isn't like a...
I'm
You
leaving
need to
the
work on
fifth
your
spot
list
open,
again.
and let me tell you
Not you
some of the
leaving
look.
the fifth slot open and then giving us number 4 2 shows.
Yeah,
let me
the math
tell
isn't
you-
quite
This
there.
math, it's not mathing.
I don't want to shade you necessarily.
Shade
I
me.
will.
Shade me. Whole tree branches. I don't care. Look,
Okay.
here's what matters to me for these shows. Okay, obviously Breaking Bad, The Wire, just incredibly like tight writing. I love watching these like great characters. Great characters is like, and especially like watching characters transform over time. This is why when people say like Mad Men is one of their favorite shows, it frustrates me because Don Draper actually doesn't change throughout the show. But I love great character stories. I also love something that I can relate to. Parenthood and This Is Us. The whole time I'm thinking like about like my family, about like, all right, when we have kids, now I have
you weren't even
kids.
a parent when you watched those.
But I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about my childhood. I'm thinking about growing up. But then last bit, consistency matters. So there have been a lot of like great first seasons of television. Penny mentioned Ted Lasso. I like Ted Lasso the whole way through, by the way. But Homeland, one of my favorite first seasons of television ever. Arcane is an incredible first season of television, but it's been like 3 years or however long since they did season
They're
1.
coming back in November.
I'm sure they're coming back, but I need a little bit of consistency to really put it on as a favorite, and then of course Game of
Okay,
Thrones
that's
kind of
fair.
dropped the ball for me at the end. But a lot of so that's me. I'm a little bit indecisive, but I love lists. And
Well, you don't do them, right? Yeah.
Y'all, they brought him back from the dead. Like, I just want y'all to think about that.
Jon Snow?
They killed their main character in season 1. Are y'all not remembering the same show?
No, the season.
what show are you talking about?
No, she's talking about Game of Thrones. The first season was incredible. When Ned
Bro,
Stark's
yeah.
head rolled. Oh,
That-
sorry.
the
I guess
whole
spoilers
show.
for Game of Thrones also.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We haven't watched it. No,
yeah,
that's one I
it was
didn't-
crazy.
I didn't know I didn't know that TV could be that ruthless.
Mhm.
Like I had never seen that because
Mhm.
literally the entire time I was watching, even when they had the people throwing cabbages and bananas at his head and they were pissed, I was like, oh, it's okay. They will save him because
Something
he's the
is
main
going
character.
to happen.
They don't kill main characters.
Yeah.
No, they chopped his head off with the baby watching in the crowd. And I was just like, oh, this is TV. Ooh.
They changed the game.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. My list, I don't even like how I covered my list now. But anyway, my list is not in order. Except for The Office. The Office is number 1. Everything else is not 5 through, whatever.
It's actually
not in
just
order.
number 1, 2, 3, 4 are The Office, and then everything else is battling for 5.
Basically.
Alright.
I would like to give an honorable mention to House Hunters and Phineas
Boo, okay.
Phineas and
All
Ferb
right.
as well.
It's time to end this. It's time to end this. Thanks for listening to Real Relatives. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please take a moment to leave a review, rate us, subscribe, and share our podcast with your people. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and whatever platform you enjoy listening to podcasts on. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, or X, at Real Relatives. That's REEL, Relatives, to stay updated on new episodes. Vote on polls because, side note, Gene loves a good IG story poll. And just share your thoughts with us. We really mean it when we say we want to hear from you. Make sure to tune in again in 2 weeks for more banter on TV and movies with the relatives. Until then, take care and happy watching.